All right, guys, we're going to create an assemblage. An assemblage is like a collage that has 3D elements, pop-up elements, that's inspired by the ancient Egyptians. So I have a lot of different images of different assemblages that are inspired by ancient Egypt. You definitely don't need to copy these, but they're there if you want to use them for inspiration. I'm gonna start by just laying things out onto my paper, or my cardboard that is, and try to create balance. Balance is when my paper doesn't look like it's going to lean this way. So if all of my objects were on that side, if this were a scale, it would go that way or that way. And you can do that by making something that's totally symmetrical, meaning it's the same on both sides. So triangle here, triangle there. Or you can do it by making something that has equal weight. So I'm putting a bigger object there and two smaller objects here. And I'm just kind of playing around with what I think might look good. Maybe I'll put this in the middle. If I want to, it's a little tricky, but I can cut out of the cardboard different sorts of Egyptian symbols. You have a paper that shows you a lot of different hieroglyphics. So maybe I'm gonna cut this to look like a cat. The ancient Egyptians worshipped cats. And maybe I'll put that on. You will also have the opportunity to add symbols later in this project. So cutting cardboard can be hard. So don't worry about it if you're having a hard time. So I'm gonna put my cat here. You'll have a time to draw these symbols on once this is all dry and painted. So here's my little kitty's tail. And I'm gonna move stuff. I don't like that anymore. There. So I'm gonna take it, maybe I'll put it here, or maybe I'll lose it all together. So don't worry right now if this doesn't reference ancient Egypt a ton, because you'll get a chance to do that later, and that we'll be using all gold paint, which is something that is very Egyptian, and we'll get to add hieroglyphics on top. All right, I'm fairly happy with this. My next step is to glue it, so I'm just picking up each object one at a time, putting glue on the back, and sticking it down. You'll notice when I did these puzzle pieces, I made the colorful side of the puzzle piece where I saw like the chicken and the little piggy there. I put that on the bottom because I'm gonna paint this. And it'll be easier for me to paint if everything is in sort of brown tones. So again, like this is red on this side and mostly brown on that side. I'm gonna pick the mostly brown side to be the side that sticks up because that'll be easier for me to paint over. All right, so once that is all assembled, I'm gonna let it dry, and the next step is to paint it white. That's called a gesso layer of paint. Gesso is just paint that's preparing for a color, so we'll gesso it with white, and then we'll add gold paint and hieroglyphics. So right now, I'm going to pause. All right, my next step is to paint everything white. So what I'm gonna do is just dip into the white, and paint all over. I want to be sure that I get in the corners. Mine's not completely dry. Yours will be totally dry because it will have had a good week after the glue. Mine I just did a couple minutes ago. So you'll notice that I'm having to hold things down, or maybe my things shift around a little bit. That's just because I'm doing it all in one sitting. So I'm making sure that I get all the little corners up the sides of things. And I'll time lapse you while I finish that up because it's a pretty straightforward step. Okay, now that it's painted all white, your white will be dry. Mine isn't totally dry, so you might notice that it's mixing a little bit with my gold. But what I want to do is paint my whole assemblage with the gold paint. The Egyptians used gold to show wealth. It was like a symbol to show I have enough money to make all of my things out of gold. So this will really make our pieces look like they're inspired by or are referencing ancient Egypt. The pharaohs made their tombs, their mummy encasements, all out of gold. And they were also relief sculptures. A lot of buildings had these types of relief sculptures on them. So it's also referencing the architecture of ancient Egypt. And like I said, yours will be totally dry, so your gold will go on nice and clean. You'll notice my gold looks like it has a little bit of white in it. That's because it does. So painting the whole thing gold, and then next time I see you, we're going to add details on top and hieroglyphics. All right, now that my paint is dry, I can go in and add details with both markers, and I have some different sorts of jewels and gems that you can attach to. So to start, I'm gonna go to my cat and I'm gonna look at these images I have. This is of an Egyptian cat as a symbol, so how they drew the cat. So I think what I'm gonna do is draw kind of Egyptian eyes on my cat. So it goes like that out, in. There was a black part in the middle. This kind of curves out to the side and a line there. So I'm kind of trying to draw those symbols into my artwork. Line here, line there. The cats almost have necklaces on when I look at the symbols in Egypt. Maybe I'll draw his nose and his mouth. Also on this paper, there is the hieroglyphics alphabet. So if you wanted to, you could even write your name. So maybe up and down here, I'll write my name, Westman. So it starts with this little chick. And you can always practice first on another piece of paper because some of these are a little bit tricky to draw. And then E is, ooh, there is no E. Let's see if I can figure out here. Aha, here's my E. E. So some of these are more complete than others. So you notice that one didn't have every letter. S, T, here's M, A. Interesting, this one has a little birdie for their A that looks really similar to the W. And N is a zigzag line. And then I can even just draw in some symbols. So I think these wings are really cool. I don't have those wings anywhere, but I think I'm gonna draw it right here because I just like that symbol. To me, wings feel kind of free. So I can add symbols in that way, even if I didn't cut them out of the cardboard. So those are the feathers, and then I'll go in and add some details. I'll keep working on drawing my symbols, and I'll time lapse you up until the point where I'm about to add extra details. All right, the last step is to add these little gems. I don't have a ton of these, so you may each choose 4 of them. So I'm gonna pick out 4, I'm gonna do all mine the same. You don't need to do all of yours the same, and just kind of play with where you want them to go. Like maybe I want one on the head of my cat right there, like it looks like it's part of his crown. Maybe I want one here to kind of fill that empty space. And again, I'm thinking about balance. I'm not gonna put them all on that side. Maybe I'll do 2 on this side, 2 on that side to kind of make my piece feel balanced. I'm gonna put one there at the top of my triangle, and I think for me, it feels balanced if I put that one there. And then I'm just gonna go ahead and glue those on, and my piece will be finished. It's a relief sculpture, meaning it's a sculpture that has a flat back. It references ancient Egyptian culture because I use some of the symbols that they used, but I use them in my own way. I didn't copy ancient Egyptian art. I turned it into my very own piece of art. I cannot wait to see what you make in your Egyptian assemblage.